I love Community. I also love Rick and Morty. Wait, Hippo. Just think about what this is gonna do to your image.
To be fair, you have to have a very high IQ to understand Rick and Morty.
I do. I love Rick and Morty. I have since it first aired when I was in middle school. That doesn't make me feel existential. Here's the thing. Now, as of 2025, I like it more than I ever have. Season 7 and Season 8 are, in my opinion, the best the show has ever been. Though, your mileage may vary if you ask the Rick and Morty subreddit, or the Rotten Tomato audience reviews. The show's new peaks are in large part due to Dan Harmon captaining the ship, a term I borrow from the Community cast members on Harmon's presence as creator of Community. Not to independently glaze him too much, he's certainly had enough of that in his career. Dan Harmon is, like I said, the creator of Community and the co-creator of Rick and Morty alongside Justin Roiland. This is a video about Rick and Morty, Community, and Dan Harmon's writing. So without further ado, grab a drink, sit back, relax, and subscribe.
It's the way the news goes.
Community was a sitcom that held nights on NBC alongside The Office, Parks and Rec, and 30 Rock, giving it pretty strong primetime sitcom time slot competition. It never quite took off on cable, but it had enough of a dedicated fan base to make it to season 6, and just barely at that. NBC would dump the show after season 5, but miraculously, the show would be picked up and the 6th season was completed on Yahoo Screen. Yahoo Screen is definitely a streaming service that exists, and it definitely did not dissolve because of Community. Credit to Yahoo Screen where it's due though, they were mostly right about Community's potential. Just too soon. Community would explode in popularity from streamers, and it was one of those shows that COVID really helped binge watch numbers. For years, it was available on Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon Prime, and is now available on Peacock, though I'm sure that will change in 2 months, so why do I even bother? Rick and Morty, on the other hand, have kind of had it the exact opposite. Rick and Morty, from the start, found great success. It was a culturally relevant touchstone that many adult animated shows to this day are drawing from. The writers of Rick and Morty became pretty highly sought after in Hollywood for a period too, landing Rick and Morty writers Jeff Loveness and Michael Waldron jobs on massive blockbuster films. I wonder if that at all contributed to the maybe seemingly possible bait/failed announcement for a Community movie? But who knows what's going on there? We don't. Please update? Please make the Community movie? As Rick and Morty went on, though, the popular opinion was that it had degraded. It was flanderized. It was a show unable to grow. If you ask me, whilst the show had some funny moments, this was definitely true. I've asked my friends if they even know that Rick and Morty is on season 8, and many don't. These people used to be super fans of the show. It certainly didn't help that the show has had some odd controversies and public appearances, to say the least.
I'm Pickle Rick!
To be fair, you have to be very smart to understand the humor in Rick and Morty is genuinely a Hall of Fame post on any social media ever. I think it's a really solid example of a meme that had real ramifications for how people understood something. If you're still here, it worked on you as a reference in the hook. So, after all this, though, we reached the Nexus event that probably made people assume the show wasn't even going on anymore. Justin Roiland's sexual misconduct. Now, let's not make any light of this. 11 different women shared thousands of text messages they had with Roiland, some of them being minors at the time, and there are accounts of rape. This was a man who abused his powers, social and financial, to take advantage of young girls. I'll leave down some articles below if you want to read more on that, and my heart goes out to all of his victims. Please do ignore him when he inevitably announces some new creative endeavor or attempts a right-wing grift. I mean, Elon Musk has already primed him for this. Shocker. But this is not a video about Justin Roiland's well-documented criminal acts. It's a video about how the subsequent removing of Justin Roiland off of Rick and Morty would actually be the best thing to ever happen to it. At this time, rumbling of the show's future was very quickly dissuaded as it was announced that Dan Harmon would take over as the sole showrunner, no longer sharing creative decision-making with Justin Roiland. Roiland would retain co-creator credits, but not be working on the show in any capacity, and the show would be renewed for more seasons. As of this moment, up to season 12 are confirmed. This came with some complications, of course, primarily that Justin Roiland could no longer voice Rick and Morty. And in what may be one of the funniest recasts of all time, they hired impersonators of Roiland's performances with no prior voice acting work besides some commercials. What's amazing is that if you ask me, they're probably better. Rick is voiced by Ian Cardoni, whilst Morty is now voiced by Harry Belden. A quick off topic, I just want to point out this hate comment that Harry Belden got that kind of made me giggle.
He looks like a LG HDTV 4K.
Both of them being able to focus on one vocal range brings so much more nuance to these characters in a very nice way if you ask me, though there is mixed opinions and some fans do not enjoy the new voices. So we have Roiland and Harmon Rick and Morty, season 1 through 6, and then Harmon Rick and Morty, season 7 and 8. I want to take a look into Harmon and Roiland's writing quirks because whilst the show retains its general identity, I'd feel safe saying that this show...
What about this?
Boy, you, John, you dumb, stupid idiot.
...is not the same as this show.
Dear God!
We have two Rick and Mortys, a Harmon-led one and a Roiland and Harmon-led one. But here's something to think about, too. We also have two Solar Opposites, a show created by Roiland without Harmon that we can also see without Roiland. And we have two Communities, a show created by Harmon, and we have a version of Community without Harmon. We can see what changed about the shows in their absence and presence, and I think that's pretty interesting. For example, Rick and Morty used to be way more improvised than it is now.
There's more. The moon. It comes crashing into Earth. And what do you do then? It's two brothers and they're gonna... It's called Two Brothers. Two Brothers. It's just called Two Brothers.
I'd imagine the episode scripts for season 7 and 8 are tighter than the earlier seasons. There are obvious similarities, though, to all of Harmon and Roiland's works. A reverence for pop culture and nerd stuff, a desire to homage other media, or as Rick puts it, do a thing.
Do a Die Hard.
What does that mean?
Whether it's a western, a heist, a bar episode, a wedding episode, a detective serial, or a war documentary, Community and Rick and Morty are known for their homages and parodies. Season 8, episode 4 of Rick and Morty is an homage to Alien Prometheus, but also an Easter episode.
That's the whole plot of Alien Prometheus.
Wow, sounds memorable. How do we even start talking about that?
The Rick and Morty episode with the weird weasel ferret Power Rangers Voltron thing is the exact same kind of homage to gangster films like Goodfellas in the way that the Chicken Tender episode of Community is. There's also a thing that they both really like to do at like the start and end of seasons sometimes.
That's season 1. Boom. Season 1. I'm in your face.
This is the show. We're gonna do this now. Haha. These are the rules of the show, and this is what we're gonna do the same and different. Haha.
We're gonna be less crazy.
We're gonna finally be fine.
But if you stick with me, I'm going to accomplish great things, Morty. And you're going to be part of them. And together we're going to run around, Morty. We're going to do all kinds of wonderful things, Morty. Just you and me, Morty. Totally repaired. We can finally leave this shithole planet and find a good one that Pupa can terraform. Then we can grow more Schlorpians from the seeds we have stored in the cryopods.
I understand this, the desire to explain, the desire to categorize and logic, but also the resistance to that at the same time, and how that can create a pretty odd mindset. But amongst these similarities, I believe there's a larger fundamental difference here that shakes up the tone of Rick and Morty.
Well, what do I know? I'm Jeff Weir's dumb gay dad.
From where I'm sitting, Dan Harmon's tone coming from Community and the later seasons of Rick and Morty seems a lot more in love with humanity, whilst on the other hand, I'd say Roiland seems pretty pessimistic. Rick and Morty has always had an adversarial tone to everyone, the world, its fans, human nature, and lore. It had an episode revolving around making fun of recurring villains. It would make snappy fourth wall break jokes about how it hated that the fan base wanted bird person lore or something, and God forbid you ever want to know more about Diane. On one hand, I get it. Some fans would endlessly toil away at their keyboards demanding classic Rick and Morty adventures. Which, what does that even mean? I don't believe that Dan Harmon shares what seems like Justin Roiland's adversarial relationship with fan base or lore. He has spoken at length about his episodic writing process, The Story Circle. The story circle is functionally just a set of rules and emotional beats that Dan Harmon follows every single time he writes an episode of one of his shows. It's also based on Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. There's even an episode of Rick and Morty where Dan Harmon voices a depiction of Joseph Campbell. Kind of a Jeff Winger thing to do, dude. I will put the story circle on screen so you can feel free to pause and read it. It's not exactly complicated. I don't really feel like I need to break it down at length. Through these lenses, we certainly see Dan Harmon's voice taking place in Rick and Morty just a little bit more. Throughout season 7 and 8, we will learn more than we ever have about Beth's childhood, develop every family member in real ways that still keep them feeling familiar yet new. We will get a follow-up to episode 2 of season 1 of Rick and Morty, where Morty had a kid. We'll see Unity again. We will see Water Tea, a follow-up to the gag about his home planet from Get Swifty. We will finally see many of Rick's fins from the early seasons that, went away. And whilst it's tempting to hear all that and think, wow, this just sounds like cameo porn, but it's really not. The show is using them creatively and fun to tell actually good stories. Looking at Community, not only are the 7 main cast memorable and great, the show is littered with a host of beloved side characters, some who were elevated to main characters at times. The Dean, Professor Duncan, Chang, Neil, Vicky, Leonard, Magnitude, Vaughn, Rich, Todd, the goddamn multi-season Beetlejuice bit. Dan Harmon can build a world. And then for Rick and Morty, you have Goldenfold, Principal Vagina, who become quite sparse as the show goes on. You have Bird Person, Gearhead, I suppose. Jessica is definitely one. Gene, Brad. A lot of those characters, I'd say, are underutilized compared to Community's side characters. Thinking about it, Rick and Morty doesn't have many side characters. It's the family, and then you have a pretty small list of other characters that are consistent and going to show up. Community excelled at elevating these sorts of characters without overusing them. Like, for example, Leonard, an old man attending Greendale who is almost always relegated to one-liners. Leonard does get a larger role in one episode, though, exploring Pierce's old age in comparison to the main group, and the pros and cons of his current circle. We learn about Pierce, we learn about Leonard, and it's just that. At the end of the episode, Leonard stays his lovable self, but we understand him just that much more. And this is the capacity to which I can understand many of the episodes we get in Harmon's Rick and Morty. Season 7, Episode 1, we get to learn a lot more about Mr. Poopy Butthole as him, Rick, and their friends go on a bar crawl. Which nicely, for my point, Dan Harmon basically describes as the community bar episode. Mr. Poopy Butthole, at the end of it, stays his lovable self, but we just learn about him that much more. Leonard and Mr. Poopy Butthole even share a son that doesn't talk to them. Speaking of estranged sons, Season 8, Episode 9, featuring the 8th season long-gone character of Morty's horrible son, is pretty good. Now, would I be remiss if we never heard about Morty's son and his book again? No. But maybe I wouldn't have been remiss if Leonard didn't get a starring role that one time. It's appreciated nonetheless when a show can make good, thematically thoughtful episodes using its established lore and characters. The Jerry episode where he meets a drifter Jerry is great. If you could think of the best way to do a Jerry episode focused on a multiverse of Jerrys, I can't really think of a better way you do it than this. And you know what? I'm not sure how you do a Jerry and Rick episode better than the Jerick trap either. It really feels like Rick and Morty wants to move forward. It wants to utilize its world, but also it wants to close some threads. It wants to make some plot points officially canon and finish some stories so it can move forward. We end season 8 with a teaser that Mr. Poopy Butthole is being researched on by his ex-wife and a team of mysterious scientists baffled as to his reality warping abilities. We've elevated some side characters like Gene, we've introduced new characters like Bug Ann, but perhaps most notable is the addressing of Diane. Diane and young Rick get explored in both season 7 and 8's finale, and these episodes are amazing, genuinely amazing. Rick and Morty at its best. Initially, Rick and Morty had asked us to care that Rick had a dead wife who was so important to his psychology that it made him this hateful, nihilistic version of himself, on top of that, having seen everything. But it also asks us to not care about that dead wife. We'll see glimpses of her and make passing jokes about her, but never delve into it. And Dan Harmon finally delves into it. He finally, after 8 seasons of the show, wants to explore this backstory in a real way. We finally get to see Diane and her life with Beth and Rick. Rick.
Ooh, wee.
Rick is just a combination of Abed and Jeff. And Pierce? There is a thought fluttered in Community that Jeff, Abed, and Pierce are like the same or similar. Jeff is an egotistical narcissist who thinks and often will talk his way out of things, but to a limit. He also feigns nonchalance and struggles to maintain healthy, deeper relationships. He runs away from vulnerability, all things that can be said of Rick. And of course, further than that, Rick, though not exclusively, will always call out the meta joke that Abed would call out. We're doing this. We're doing this. We may even view Rick's portal gun akin to Abed's camera, a way to capture the world how they see it, not according to the rules of others. In Community, something that Abed does or drives forward is the homages, like the My Dinner with Andre homage, the interview-style sitcom episode, a religious film, etc. He uses his camera to drive forward the pop culture homages, the thing that we're doing, as Rick does with his portal gun. It's clear that Abed and Rick and Jeff share a penchant for pop culture and for enacting it. Let's quickly hone in on the My Dinner with Andre homage. My Dinner with Andre is a film that many could describe as boring, featuring men who share a conversation over dinner. One character has preconceived notions of the other, but as the night goes on, he warms up to his old friend. In Community, the men are replaced by Jeff and Abed. Remember, Jeff and Abed were the first relationship founded in Community. Jeff is the first person to truly understand Abed, and honestly, vice versa. Jeff and Abed are the same, bonded over being raised by TV and feeling abandoned and misunderstood by their family. They both struggle to hold deep relationships, to have other people understanding them. As an autistic person, I think this really connects with me, and so as horrible as these characters can be at times, I find some understanding about myself from them. So yeah, Rick is Abed and Jeff. And Pierce.
Is this game popular with autistic people?
Why would you say something like that?
Because I'm starting to love it.
This is Don't Eat the Crab Dip. Yay.
A lot of episodes of Community and Rick and Morty are about character dynamics, pairing all the characters of the show in new ways to build on expected relational sitcom tropes, and they can do this pretty similarly at times. Rick and Morty and Community also just at times will have the same jokes. Small things you can clearly tell Dan Harmon or one of the Community and later Rick and Morty writers really find funny. The unfinished business of a ghost.
Ghosts. If we have to choose between pinning it on some specter with unfinished pen-related business,
Unfinished business detected. Terminating body.
Okay, I need to make gravity part of its finished business and leave floors unfinished. Starting over.
Even Rick's penchant for random catchphrases just makes me think of Pierce. And if you didn't think I meant zip, zop, zooey, you're streets behind. I mean, Dan Harmon really just thinks catchphrases are funny.
Pop, pop. Pop, pop.
Ding 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 ding.
An unprecedented rickocidal epidemic. That's ridiculous.
Dean of Man.
Pepper in a few random references to political figures.
Yeah! Do your Howard Dean scream. Yeah!
Washington, D.C. to take back the White House!
And of course, the homages, and you have an episode of Community or Rick and Morty. I, of course, have to point out the Community cast members who all had guest roles in episodes of Community.
Oh, Britta's in this?
The idea of playing on the multiverse is also common throughout these shows. Abed from the Dark Timeline sports a beard, where Evil Morty sports an eye patch. The idea of using multiversal versions of these characters as vehicles to tell different stories was something in Community that they attempted a few times. I mean, the most beloved episode of Community is one where 7 different versions of the same 5 minutes play out in slightly different timelines. I also think of the Dreamatorium episode with Annie and Abed. This multiversal alternate universe characters thing is a massive part of Rick and Morty. I would almost describe it as what Community wanted to be doing, but just didn't really have the wherewithal to do, I suppose. But these alternate universe version of characters can be used for homages, character studies, and just putting the characters in more harsh, unlikable decision-making modes without completely tainting the audience's understanding of them. And okay, I mean, that's it. Ultimately, this video was just an excuse to talk about Rick and Morty and Community, but in an alternate multiverse, I came up with a really good thematic through line and ended this gracefully. This might just be the dark timeline, sorry folks. Wait a minute, the story circle. Character and comfort zone, that's me before I made this video. But they want something, to make a video about Rick and Morty and Community. They enter an unfamiliar situation, writing the script for a video about Rick and Morty. They adapt to it, finishing the script for the Rick and Morty video. They get what they want. The video is done. I posted the video. So right now. And then I guess the rest of this, I'm predicting the future. 6, they pay a heavy price for it. My fan base, yeah, okay, buddy. The few people that enjoy my videos, they turn on me because I like Rick and Morty, and I admitted that. 7, they return to their familiar situation. Back to, I want to make another video that's not about Rick and Morty. But they have changed. My people know me forever as a person that likes Rick and Morty. Yeah, so I guess I hope that me liking Rick and Morty is okay. Just like in the hero's journey, home is forever changed. What the fuck am I talking about? I hope that season 9 of Rick and Morty is absolutely banging. Make sure to totally like and subscribe. Go watch another one of the videos on your screen. Maybe even become a member. I don't know. Either way, much love. Have a great day or night. Hippo out.
Leonard likes this post.